You're listening to the Screaming Pods Network.
So what kind of music have you been listening to lately?
Me? Lately?
Yeah, you're notorious for like changing favorite artists all the time. So who's at the top of your list?
The top of my list right now, I've been listening to a lot of Miles Davis. Today I listened to a lot of Chet Atkins. He's a very good guitar player. If you like any of his stuff, you might remember his song Jam Man from the Allstate insurance commercials. Talented fellow. What about you?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I've been feeling super nostalgic lately and revisiting like the music from my angsty childhood.
Cool. Yeah, that's always really fun. It always is really fun.
Yeah, I just added a couple of Green Day songs to
Yeah.
my Spotify playlist.
Green Day's is great.
It's classic.
It is.
I don't know. And we were out at the bar this weekend and we heard some Dave Matthews Band covers. So, listening to a lot of that today too.
Right. But I know you go to a lot of concerts. So do you ever felt like the music had like an influence over you or made you do something strange?
I've definitely been moved at concerts. Like, I think back to how can you not get all riled up at a Rage Against the Machine show? Like, I mean, that's about the extent of it. I actually, I'm kind of embarrassed to mention this, but there was a time where I ventured into a mosh pit, and that's totally out of character for me, and I don't even want to admit that the mosh pit was at a Taking Back Sunday concert.
Yeah, that's fine. No judgment.
They rock. They're great.
Yeah.
They're a good band. They're a great band.
I couldn't name a single tune by them.
I just get really riled up sometimes.
Yeah. It's okay. No shame here at the fire. As always, my name is Ben.
And this is Jill.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Or moshing with us,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing tonight.
This evening, I'm not sure if I want to call it unconventional. It's
We're looking into the music industry to uncover some of the hidden secrets or the kind of the scary side of things,
the cover-ups.
The cover-ups. And
the
not in a sense of-
conspiracies.
Yeah, but not in a sense of like murder, mayhem, and mystery, but really in a sense of how are we impacted by these conspiracies?
Yeah. Are we being brainwashed by the record labels? Are there subliminal messages in your favorite songs? It's all here tonight at the fire.
And I'm going to say yes to both of those questions because there's a reason why all of a sudden I woke up one day after weeks of hating that Cardi B lady and now I can't get enough of her. Why is that?
She's quite the character. I mean, I
can't go a day without singing her songs.
Yeah, you can't put her down for being being entertaining like she is.
But I was totally brainwashed in the Cardi B cult.
Yeah. Our first story tonight surrounds one of the most prolific musical groups to have ever performed on this planet. The Beatles.
The Beatles.
That's right. Paul, John, George, and...
Ringo,
very good. I knew you'd get it.
I'm not that out of the music scene.
But there are a ton of some outrageous, like I'll say conspiracy theories or just urban legends about the Beatles and their music, and maybe everyone's heard about the Paul's Dead legend, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
We have a friend of At the Fire, RJ, who submitted his story on the time he followed up with a well-known Beatles conspiracy theory.
This took place about 7 years ago. I was playing a show with my old Beatles tribute band I had at the time. I was about 11. I'm currently 19, so it's 7 years ago. I was 11 years old. So, on the Magical Mystery Tour album, there are 3 phone numbers on it based off of how you hold the album The phone numbers are in the Beatles logo on it. If you hold it 3 different ways, you get 3 different phone numbers. And at the time, I was really starting to get into Beatles conspiracies, whether it be the Paul is dead theory, or why is Paul red on the Let It Be album and everyone else is black, and so on and so forth. And this is just another one of those urban legend mysteries. The legends of the 3 phone numbers are: the first one, in 1968, a student at the University of Michigan called it, then mysteriously committed suicide. The second one, supposedly, according to the legend, is an English funeral home. And then the final one is like a scary old woman that you woke up in the middle of sleep, but she was always being woken up in her sleep. So that's the legends. And with that context, I'm gonna go on with this story because it gets kind of freaky. Like I said, at the time I was getting to Beatles lore, so I thought, hey, I'm gonna call these phone numbers. I called them about, I want to say, 3 p.m., 4 p.m. in day. I called them after I got out of school, because the show was at 8 p.m. that night. So I called the first 2. I really don't recall anything. I believe the first one was something about going to Pepperland, which is the legend of it. It's like an old Beatles phone number about Sgt. Pepper's. So I didn't end up committing suicide. And the second number I called was the English funeral home. So these legends are getting pretty accurate with these calls. The third number is where things get interesting. I had called it and it didn't answer. So I forgot about it. I let it be. I was feeling good. So I'm about to go on stage. It's about 8:30 or so right now. And I feel my phone vibrate. I look at my old flip phone back when I had one. And it's the Beatles number. I didn't realize it at the time until I checked my call history later. But it was the Beatles number. I thought it was just some random phone number. I'm about to go on stage in about 10 minutes or so here at the time of this. And then it leaves a voicemail. It's about a minute long. Most of it is not understandable because it had very low quality. It sounded like one of those phones from the 60s. Found that very interesting. It sounded like it was from the 60s. So then I listened to voicemail. The only thing I could really make out was "Don't call, kid." That's the only thing I could make out. So naturally, me being myself, I decided to call it back. This is about 5 minutes before I go on stage. 5 minutes before. So I call the number back and it answers. Again, it's very hard to understand what it's saying. It has this very deep British accents. And I couldn't help but notice, I thought at the time there might have been a voice changer on it. It sounded very alien-like to me. I don't remember much of the conversation, but I do remember distinctly at the end. Again, like I say, the voice is very, very hard to understand unless it was like screaming. And it was screaming for a lot of it. And it just said something like,
"I told you never call back, kid."
And I said, in my little 11-year-old voice and all that, "Hey, I called because I found this number on a Beatles album." And the guy says to me something very weird. He says,
"Never call back. Bad things will happen."
And it stayed silent for about 20 seconds. It sounded like there was a screaming or something like that going on in the background. And just hung up. Then I went on stage. And a killer performance.
What do you think about the Beatles' phone numbers?
I think that whoever put phone numbers on that record is a real jerk, and those numbers are going to be prank called for probably the rest of the time that we have phones.
Allegedly,
on this planet.
one of them belonged or still belongs to a journalist for The Guardian, which is I guess, I'm not sure, newspaper and some sort of news outlet in the United Kingdom. And the reporter's been getting calls at all hours of the early morning.
Oh.
Like, we want to call these numbers, but yeah, it's like 2:30 in the morning in London right now.
Yeah, and we'd be like playing the guessing game with the area code and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, we could guess. I'll post this image of the cover and the numbers drawn out. So if anybody else wants to take the time to call,
Please
let us know what you find. Yeah, it's pretty spooky though. Actually, getting someone to respond to you.
Give you a call back. And
Don't call. Yeah, warn you even.
It's like if you didn't have to say anything, we probably won't call again.
Maybe it's that journalist.
Is that true? Yeah, bad things will happen.
Don't call me, kid.
I'll write your number in the paper and have everyone call you.
Yeah, so I think RJ mentioned the Paul's Dead urban legend of the Beatles. Are you familiar with this?
No, I'm not.
So there is a conspiracy theory or urban legend, whatever you want to call it, that Paul McCartney actually got, I think, sick and died in 1966.
Oh, I think I've seen like side-by-side pictures like where people like will circle the nose and be like, look,
and they
it's
replaced him
different.
with a lookalike, yeah. And he continued to perform with the Beatles and I guess write a bunch of chart-topping songs and eventually became a billionaire.
So wait a second. Did the Beatles did their success change dramatically at the time that people are, suspecting that switch?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. So I'm not real up to date on the Beatles and their history. But yeah, there was a pivotal shift where they all started doing drugs and the music got a lot more out there. John Lennon became more of the Salvador Dali type for the music.
Dropping acid.
Yeah, they all were. I mean, look at the Magical Mystery Tour cover. Listen to Sgt. Pepper's.
Phone numbers all over the place. What are they thinking?
But anyway, let's turn our attention to the Paul's Dead myth. Where that kind of comes from is, I think somebody published a news article or something. I don't think it was serious. But then people started...
Like a tabloid article?
Yeah, then people... I think it was in a university newspaper or something. Then people started looking for clues and evidence. And so one of the biggest, I guess, pieces of evidence that backs up this myth, they say, is found in this Beatles song, I'm So Tired, that's from the White Album. Well, it's technically called The Beatles, but it's known more, I guess, colloquially as the White Album. So it's a pretty standard Beatles tune, but what makes it so infamous is at the very end of the song, John Lennon is mumbling something that you can't really make out. So the believers of this myth say when you reverse the mumbling, John Lennon has something to say. What did that sound like to you? I'll play it again.
Paul is dead now? And then... Oh, we replaced him? Paul is dead now, we replaced him?
Paul is a dead man. Miss him, miss him, miss him.
I mean...
Yeah, kind of a stretch, right? Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Do you think he's dead?
No,
Do you think they replaced him?
I mean, it was real funny at the time. Like, it was a very popular myth at the time, and Paul McCartney, went in interviews, went on TV, was like, yeah, I'm not dead. People were like, oh, look, it's not really him.
I was going to say, did he acknowledge this?
He did, yes. He did acknowledge it, and it's still talked about today. I mean, we're talking about it right now, Like,
Poor Paul.
Yeah, so again, there's another song on this album that people argue kind of tips its cap to this Paul's Dead myth. It's near the second, I guess, part of the album. The song's called Revolution 9. Pretty much, I guess, I don't know a better way to describe it. It's like a sound collage. You know, it was very experimental and forward-thinking at the time, and it's pretty cool to listen to with headphones on, but it's like 8.5 minutes long, and, you know, not far into the song, it sort of feels like you're forcing yourself to watch an experimental film or something.
Or listen to jazz.
But what's interesting about it is almost as soon as the song starts, a voice repeats periodically throughout the song. It's just like chanting number 9, number 9, number 9. And when you play that in reverse, what's he saying?
I could not tell you.
They say he's saying, "Turn me on, dead man."
In terms of what?
Some say it's a confirmation of the Paul's Dead urban legend. Turn me on like enlighten me. Dead man is Paul.
Enlighten me, dead man.
Right. I think that's the argument. I don't really know. But other people suggest this could be a shout out to the infamous Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley.
Lover and, yes, experimenter with the occult. He actually appears in the crowd of faces on the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album cover. And some people say this is them just giving a shout out to him.
Oh,
he
I
was
love
dead
it.
at the time. Who knows? Maybe it's bullshit.
So, RJ, thanks for inspiring this downward spiral investigation into the music industry and its many, many conspiracies. RJ is a musician. He's a YouTuber, a podcaster. He's also the producer of the TNT podcast. He's the host of The Drum Room, This Week in Rock, and Wednesday Wisdom. We'll have all of his contact information on our website, so feel free to check it out and give him a follow on Twitter. Well, I feel like the Beatles conspiracy theories are slightly less satanic than some of the other more well-known conspiracies.
Most definitely. Do you know about Led Zeppelin's guitar player Jimmy Page and his love with the occult?
So I've spent some time on the internet, you know, looking up some of these recordings, trying to decipher what they really say for myself. But I really don't know the history behind it.
Well, so Jimmy Page bought a home in, I think, Scotland that Aleister Crowley owned, actually, and practiced rituals there from, I forget where. But yeah, he bought this estate to perform some rituals out of this book. He needed a lot of space to do it. And Page wanted to live there. And him and Zeppelin, I don't know if they recorded there, but they wrote music there and probably did rituals themselves. Because if you listen to some of their music, some of it is like the lyrics and stuff. It's like kind of occult-ish in nature, but sort of
totally.
Like the they have a lot of songs also about the Lord of the Rings.
Well, I was going to say, I know that they reference, like, I'll say, like, medieval fantasy style. So I'm not surprised because some of their music makes you feel like you are in Lord of the Rings. And I've always felt that Lord of the Rings is just very dark. It's a very dark fantasy.
One of their most famous songs, Stairway to Heaven, there is supposedly a hidden satanic message in that song. Around 4:19 to 4 minutes and 20 seconds into the song, it's right when the drums enter. The first verse, after the drums come in, if you reverse that, you can hear this satanic message or passage. Here's what the verse sounds like. The lyrics are weird. It is kind of unconventional.
I know, I can't really make out what they're saying without it going backwards.
So here,
And he puts a weird emphasis on some of the
Kinda
words
does.
too.
it's kind of long, but see if you can follow him. Here it is in reverse.
So I definitely heard Satan a couple of times.
I heard 666.
Yep, 666 Satan.
So I'm
Immortal. Did I hear the word immortal?
maybe I'm gonna read at least what this website interprets them as. I'm gonna try to do it as he's doing it. Oh, here's to my sweet Satan, the one whose little path would make me sad, whose power is Satan. He will give those with him 666. There was a little tool shed where he made us suffer, sad Satan. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I mean, that tool shed, man.
I feel like, I mean, there have been trials, like you can watch courtroom footage of like Rob Halford from Judas Priest, Dee Snider of Twisted Sister, like sitting in the courtroom, Ozzy Osbourne defending their lyrics and their songs. Like,
Really? People sued them over their lyrics?
Oh yeah, there were a couple, I think, kids that killed themselves in a suicide pact, and their parents thought it was because of Judas Priest. But there are, unfortunately, some instances of people who have confessed to kind of really serious and brutal crimes and have said, like, not the music made me do it, but it kind of pushed me over the edge. In particular, there's this guy I kind of stumbled across. His name was Richard Paul White. They called him Denver's Lincoln Park Strangler.
Ugh.
According to an interview he did, this Richard Paul White fella, with Rick Salinger of CBS 4 Denver News, White told the reporter that he suffered his whole life with an untreated mental illness, heavy metal music and violent movies and video games, he thinks, drove him to kill. He said that music was a big influence in his life and that his killing spree was accompanied by a soundtrack of heavy metal. This is a quote from him. Metallica probably the most. I would listen actually to Linkin Park before I would kill.
Lincoln Park?
And while I was killing, usually that music Linkin Park was on. Kind of crazy.
But it's not like they made that music for that reason.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. Like, it's not like they're not making it to brainwash kids, turn people into murderers.
Well, especially Linkin Park. I mean, they're just...
It's like when Charles Manson heard Helter Skelter and thought the Beatles were trying to prepare him for the coming race war.
Right.
Like, he was not right.
No.
In the head.
No.
This was Charles Manson's psychosis. This was not the Beatles' fault.
And then Richard Paul White admits to having an untreated mental illness. So you can't really blame the music, but
100%.
I'm interested.
It doesn't help, but I mean, freedom of speech, you can't censor that. It's
right.
art.
So I'm interested what elements of that music cause or drives people to kill.
Well, I mean, some of the lyrics are angry. I mean, there are songs about hate and killing, and maybe they don't say it outright. Maybe it's about something differently altogether, but they can be misconstrued. It's a sort of poetry in a way. And if you are, sick in the head, you're going to...
You interpret it in your own way.
You're going to pull some sick meaning out of it. Like how everybody started blaming music and video games for what happened in 1999 at Columbine High School. We all know two students shot and killed 12 of their fellow students before taking their own lives. And apparently it came out that the shooters were fans of metal music, most notably Marilyn Manson. And Marilyn Manson caught a lot of shit for this. He ended up having to cancel his tour in North America that year. There were headlines like devil-worshipping maniac told kids to kill. People just lost their mind over this music. He later, in 2002, appeared in Michael Moore's documentary Bowling for Columbine to share a rebuttal to all of the negative press.
When I was a kid growing up, music was the escape. That's the only thing that had no judgments. You know, you can put on a record and it's not going to yell at you for dressing the way you do. It's going to make you feel better about it. I definitely can see why they would pick me, because I think it's easy to throw my face on a TV, because I'm, in the end, sort of a poster boy for fear, because I represent what everyone's afraid of, because I do and say what I want.
If you were to talk directly to the kids at Columbine or the people in that community, what would you say to them if they were here right now?
I wouldn't say a single word to them. I would listen to what they have to say, and that's what no one did.
So, Marilyn Manson, pretty eloquent guy.
Are you surprised?
No, I'm not. I mean, I've seen him interview before, but I've watched everything from him. I forgot who the late night host was, but him kind of making an ass out of himself on a late show.
Letterman.
I think it was Letterman as well. But I've also watched him say pretty profound things about the state of our country at times, and his philosophies on community and life. And I don't believe. I think he is truly just trying to have some self-expression. I mean, he's the face of Hot Topic, but that doesn't mean that he's a bad person. I mean, I used to dye my hair jet black and wear lots of heavy eyeliner and rock out to
like
to
like
music.
Marilyn Manson is a character. That's not that man's real name.
Right. It's not, is it?
No, I don't know what his real name is, but that's not his name.
It's very unfortunate that type of music has the negative connotation to allow the floodgates to open and the attack to happen when it's, I mean, those kids chose to listen to that music. Marilyn Manson didn't say, hey, here's my music, here's my message, carry it out.
Well, it's just such an easy explanation for a tragedy like that.
It's music.
It must have been the music. It
wasn't mental illness.
It couldn't have been these kids. It couldn't have been their home life. It couldn't have been.
It couldn't have been bullies.
They were bullied. Yeah, but in fact they were the bullies.
There's nothing wrong with our community. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Status quo. They just got some rotten music.
Yeah. It's
very
sad. It's very sad. Quite the tragedy. But not to bring everybody down. Let's move on from that.
On the brighter side of music, it can be a super uplifting and wonderful experience. I mean, you get the right song on the radio when you're driving down on a sunny day, and you feel like you're just in a music video and you're rocking out. You just feel good, and all of a sudden you just like start craving a cheeseburger.
I'm not gonna doubt. Yeah, the music has an influence on us. It's a profound one.
I think that we get brainwashed sometimes when we listen to music.
Yeah, it can affect us emotionally, but I think it can't really affect us physically unless it's used correctly. There was a study conducted by some neuroscientists and psychologists from a university in Portugal. They used fMRIs to look at brain activity while people were listening to different kinds of music, both familiar and unfamiliar to them. The researchers found that the more familiar a song is, the more likely that the listener will like the song. So, I mean, you might say, duh, it makes sense. If you like a song, you've listened to it over and over and over again. So, but what this is saying is kind of the opposite. Hearing a song over and over again can kind of trick your brain into enjoying it.
I fall victim to this.
Yeah.
I fall victim to this. It's so bad.
Yeah, so familiar music, regardless if you like it, they also found causes the brain to have more emotion-related activity than music that you just plain like. Mm-hmm. Kind of interesting.
Well, I definitely feel like my heart gets a little flutter every time Iggy's Fancy comes on. And I just want to all of a sudden I'm like I should be in the club with my girls.
Yeah, because that's where you hear that song.
I need a tequila shot in one hand and a margarita in the other.
That's where that song takes you back to. Yeah, exactly.
But I didn't like that song at first. It wasn't until it was everywhere that I was like, okay, I can get on the bandwagon here.
Yeah, I found an article. I'll post a link to it on the site that they kind of allude to. Are the record labels doing this? There is a law that states record labels are not allowed to pay radio stations to play their music, but they still sort of circumvent this law by paying independent promoters who sort of incentivize the radio stations with, new equipment or cars or lots of cash.
Concert tickets.
Yeah, and then you hear that new... insert famous artist here song.
Halsey.
You hear that new Halsey song every time you get in your car. You go to Target, you're in Target, you come out of Target, Halsey.
I don't even like Halsey. I'm sorry. She's a nice person.
I don't know who that is.
I don't really either.
Is that how you say it?
I don't actually
know. Is
know.
it one name like Madonna? Does she have one name?
We all have one name.
Like Cher?
Halsey. Yeah, the greats. Name. Halsey, Cher, Madonna,
Lord.
Oprah. Lord, I am Lord.
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 Anyway, so yeah, the next time you're bopping your head along to that song you hated a week ago, thank the record industry. They got you.
They got you good.
Yeah. That's why I'm only listening to Spotify. I don't even want to really listen to that because, artists really aren't making any money off of streaming platforms. It's kind of a big deal right now in the recording industry. They're thinking it's going to change soon, and artists will be reimbursed a lot more fairly for their streams, but it's like fractions of a penny for a stream. It's kind of nuts.
That's not cool.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to buying CDs.
Yeah. I'd like to support my favorite artist,
then
John Mayer.
But then you got to store those CDs somewhere, and people come over and they're like, oh, CDs, huh?
Yeah, you got a fucking problem.
It's like, yeah, they're my grandparents.
This is my Grandpa Joe's.
So if a song ever made you do something crazy,
send us a story. Let us know. We want to hear all about your experiences with music conspiracies. You can send us a message at admin@thefire.com, or just follow us on Twitter. Shoot me a direct message @_the_fire.
You can even come to our website at thefire.com and submit your story there. Find the menu at the top and hit the submit your story link.
We want to thank RJ again for coming on the show, sharing his experience with some scary phone numbers on the Magical Mystery Tour album cover. Thank you so much, RJ. You are welcome back anytime.
Yeah, I had no idea those were there, but after doing some research online and seeing that one image, it's pretty astounding.
They're pretty well hidden, but
yeah, they're there.
And if you like what you hear, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody, tell your doctor, tell your dentist, tell your gardener. Help spread the word. It really helps a podcast like us.
And if you feel like doing something nice right now, find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as I heard they're now calling it, I think, on the iPhones. And rate and review us.
Don't have an iPhone. I'm so out of the loop. Google Pixel all the way.
I feel like you gotta have both. Like you gotta switch back and forth every once in a while.
I need like 5 phones.
Mm-hmm.
I need 5 phones.
It's hard though. You can't get. That's the thing. Like I wish Apple would just sort of play along. Like can you get like Bluetooth headphones for your Android that you can also use for your Apple?
I don't know. I know Apple comes with these little pods now.
Yeah, I think you have to use those with it.
Yeah, who knows? Everything's so expensive.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
It's really sad. You know what? Not only is the entertainment industry trying to control us, but so is the technology industry.
Oh, they're all trying to control us.
Everybody's trying to control us.
Yeah, yeah. If you need to go get the next iPhone as soon as it comes out, they already got you. You don't need that. Nobody needs that.
But if you are an early adopter, we still love you.
Yeah, we appreciate you. I mean, somebody's got to do it.
Thanks for keeping up on your game.
If you have the disposable income, I'm not going to hate. Respect.
Mad respect.
Mad
Mad props
respect.
for killing it in the streets and getting that apple good. But enough of that long
Yeah, we should
tangent
probably
tonight.
go.
Thank you again for joining us at the fire. My name is Jill.
And my name is still Ben. Remember, the next time your toe starts tapping while listening to your favorite song, the music has already taken over.
The music you heard on this episode was made possible by the _ Orchestra, and that's orchestra with a K. You can find their music and more on freemusicarchive.org. If you like this show, you'll love TNT Podcast. Two friends who are obsessed with wrestling decide to make a podcast. And did we mention they're two females who don't have a filter? Check it out and follow them on Twitter at TNT Podcast 2018.
You're listening to the Screaming Pods Network.